From the coast of West Africa, waves hit the shore. Stories of the past we can't ignore. Red, white, blue, but the meanings are all. Liberia, yeah, we stand strong and grow. Yeah, I at the land of the free, home of the brave.
Hello everyone, welcome to Rearview TV channel. If you're new here, please make sure you like, hit the notification bell and subscribe to all notifications. Alright, let's begin. How an American colony became an African republic, the flag, the founders, and why the past still matters. Liberia is Africa's oldest modern republic, founded in 1847 by formerly enslaved and free black people from the United States. But its flag, many institutions, and deep ties to the US make its history unusual. In this video, I'll explain how Liberia was founded, what the land and peoples were like before colonization, and why the Liberian flag looks so much like the American flag, and how history helps explain today's social problems, including rising drug use among youth. Beginning in 1816, the American Colonization Society, ACS, a mix of abolitionists, US politicians and others, started sponsoring the migration of free black Americans to West Africa. Starting in 1820, they established settlements around Cape Mesurado, near present-day Monrovia. These settlers, often called Americo-Liberians, declared the Independent Republic of Liberia in 1847. Although the settlers were black, the colonization effort was driven by Americans' desire to remove free black people from the US and to establish a civilized settler polity on the West African coast. What the flag means and why it looks American. The Liberian flag was adopted on the 24th of August 1847. Its red and white stripes and blue canton with a white star echo the US stars and stripes deliberately. The design honors the settlers' American origins. The single white star represents Liberia as one of the free African states among many. The design and the date are part of a deliberate founding identity, American heritage, and a new African homeland. What the land and societies were like before settlers arrived. Before ACS settlements, the coast and interior were home to many distinct peoples and polities. Groups such as the Capel, Bassa, Vai, Grebo, and others, with long histories of trade, farming, and political organization. There was no single Liberia state. The territory was a patchwork of chiefdoms, trading towns, and migrant networks. When ACS agents acquired Cape Mesurado in 1821, they did so in a region already inhabited and politically organized. Settler expansion and later Americo-Liberian governance created persistent tension with indigenous communities. Americo-Liberian rule and its effects. After independence, the small Americo-Liberian minority dominated the state for more than a century. They established a political, economic, and cultural order modeled in many ways on antebellum American norms, English language, Christian mission schools, and property systems that favored settlers. This produced a stratified society in which many indigenous Liberians were politically and economically marginalized. That inequality contributed to long-term social grievance. Why the West, example the US, stay involved? Liberia never became a formal US colony, but US influence was and remains strong for several reasons. The settlers, American origins, created deep cultural and diplomatic ties. US. Companies invested heavily. The most famous example is Firestone's 1926 rubber concession, which shaped Liberia's economy, and strategic interests during the 20th century, shaping flags of convenience. Cold War geopolitics kept US and Western engagement high. These external economic and political ties helped shape Liberia's development path and vulnerabilities. From 1980s civil conflict to today, how history created risk. Liberia experienced a brutal civil war between 1989 to 2003 that destroyed infrastructure, displaced people, and weakened institutions. Post-war recovery has been slow. Poverty, weak schools, disrupted families, and porous borders create conditions in which trafficking in drugs or other harmful behaviors can spread among youth. The drug problem among youth, evidence and drivers. Local studies and NGOs report that cannabis is commonly used in Liberia and that drug use among young people is an emerging public health concern. Limited data exists, but reports point to rising availability, limited prevention programs, trauma from conflict, economic stress, and gaps in education as contributing factors, not a single cultural failing. International assistance, stronger local health and education programs, and community-based youth services are part of the response needed. So as we're bringing this video to an end, here's the last little bit that I have to share with you regarding Liberia's history. Liberia's history is complex. It was created by a US-based colonization project, modeled many institutions on American lines, and retained strong ties to the West, all while existing on territory long inhabited by diverse African peoples. Those historical choices left legacies that help explain today's social challenges. Understanding that past, not blaming a single group, is the first step to solutions rooted in Liberian leadership, community resilience, and targeted support. Here are 3 quick facts that we're going to go over that I've already shared with you in this video. 1. Liberia declared independence on the 26th of July, 1847. 2. Liberian flag adopted on the 24th of August, 1847, with a similar design to the US flag by intent. Deliberately. 3. Firestone concession year in 1926, which had major US corporate presence shaping the economy. Here's another history fact. Before the 1847 flag design, the colony used a variant flag between 1827 to 1847, mimicking the US's current flag design, but it had a white cross in the canton instead of stars. So when Liberia declared independence, the cross was then replaced by the single star, and stripes were set at 11 to reflect the independence signers. Liberia did not have a single national flag before any colonization took place. Before 1821, when the American Colonization Society arrived, the region we now call Liberia was home to many independent ethnic groups, kingdoms, tribes, such as the Kapelvi, Bassa, Kru, Grebo, and Gola, each with their own cultural symbols, regalia, and identifiers, but no unified flag or national emblem. Flags in the modern Western sense, national banners used for international representation, were introduced through European and American contact in the 19th century. Indigenous Liberian societies expressed identity through cloth patterns, sacrification marks, royal symbols, totems, and community insignias, not rectangular banners. So there is no historical record or reference image of a Liberian indigenous flag that predates colonization, because it simply didn't exist as a single political entity with a flag.
From the roots to the stars, we rise and believe.
Now we're going to delve a little bit deeper into Liberia's history. The land before and after. Before the world called it Liberia, this land had another rhythm, a rhythm of peace, community, and trade. Long before the 1800s, powerful African peoples thrived here: the Capel, Vai, Bassa, Kru, Gola, and Gribo. And they were farmers, fishermen, and merchants, growing rice, weaving cloth, and exchanging ivory, camwood, and kola nuts, with visiting ships along what Europeans called the Grain Coast. There was no single Liberia, no flag, no borders. Instead, there were independent nations, each with their own language, justice systems, and chiefs who ruled through wisdom and diplomacy. They lived by their traditions, their faith, and their connection to the land.
Land of the free. Land of the free. Land of the free.
In the northwest, the Vai people even created something extraordinary, one of Africa's few indigenous writing systems, the Vai syllabary. Long before Western colonizers arrived, the land was rich, the societies vibrant, and their autonomy unquestioned.
To Monrovia's flame. The struggle was real, but we still remain.
But across the ocean in America, a different story was unfolding. In 1816, a group of politicians, slaveholders, and reformers formed the American Colonization Society, or ACS. They claimed their mission was to resettle free black Americans in Africa. But the truth was complicated. Some white leaders, Gentiles, saw it as a way to remove free black people from the United States, fearing they might inspire enslaved Africans to rise up. Some black activists saw it as a path to freedom and dignity, far from racism in America. In 1820, the first ship carrying 86 free black men and women set sail for West Africa. They landed on Sherbro Island near Sierra Leone, but disease struck hard. Many died before ever seeing the African mainland. 1 year later, survivors reached Cape Mesurado, the place that would become Monrovia, named after US President James Monroe. The settlers believed they were returning home, but to the people already living there, the Vai, Bassa, and Day, these newcomers were strangers.
One destiny. Africa's heartbeats in Liberia.
At first, local leaders thought these visitors were just traders. They agreed to sell land, but their understanding of the deal was different. In their eyes, land could be shared, not sold forever. For the settlers, however, this was a permanent purchase, a foundation for a new colony. When disagreements broke out, the settlers called on US naval ships for protection. Gunfire echoed across the coast, villages burned, the path of peace gave way to fear. More ships arrived, more land was taken. Bassar Cove, Greenville, Edina, each settlement expanding the settlers' control. By 1847, these colonies united to form the Republic of Liberia, the first African republic in modern history. But independence did not mean equality. The settlers, now called Americo-Liberians, built a nation modeled after the US states, complete with a flag that looked almost identical to America's. They spoke English, practiced Christianity, and held power in their own hands. Meanwhile, the indigenous majority, the same people whose ancestors had lived on this land for centuries, were excluded from politics, denied education, and branded as uncivilized. For over 100 years, they were ruled by a government that called itself African, but governed like a colony.
Present, we tell our own story. Pain to power, that's
Igbo peoples resisted. They fought back against forced labor and cultural suppression, but the settlers held power, backed by American money and influence. Even after independence, Liberia remained tied to the West, its economy dominated by US corporations like Firestone, which opened massive rubber plantations in 1926.
Liberia forever, land of the free. See, land of the free. Yeah.
And yet, the story of Liberia is not only about loss, it's about resilience. Through every wave of hardship, the people of Liberia never lost their spirit. A lot like many other African countries. They preserved their languages, their music, and their pride. The vice script still survives. The Capel drums still echo. The culture, the stories, the soul, all still here. Liberia's history reminds us that freedom is not just given, it's fought for, lived for, and passed down through generations. A land born from two worlds, Africa and America, still searching for unity, still writing its own story. The video's come to an end now, everyone. I tried to keep it under 20 minutes. I didn't want it to be too long. I wanted to focus on Liberia, a land built on hope, tested by struggle, and still rising strong today. If you've made it this far, you're part of the crew. Thank you for watching, learning, and keeping Africa's history alive. Drop a comment below and let me know what surprised you most about Liberia's journey, or what country's story I should tell next. Let me also know what tribe you are from across Africa. It doesn't just have to be Liberia. Once again, thank you for watching this video by Rearview TV channel. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe so you never miss another deep dive into the real stories behind our world. Until next time, stay curious, stay proud, and remember, our history is our power.